The year is 1863, and the sky above the Choshu domain shatters into jagged fragments of fire and smoke. You command the Kiheitai militia, standing exposed amidst the deafening, rhythmic roar of Western naval artillery. Shells tear through the earth with terrifying velocity, sending jagged splinters of wood and razor-sharp shrapnel slicing into your ranks. A blinding explosion throws you to the ground, a violent blast tearing into your flesh and leaving you wounded in the dirt. You are Yamagata Aritomo, a fierce warrior raised on the romantic fantasies of an ancient martial code. As you press a hand against your bleeding injury, watching Western guns decimate your unyielding forces from afar, an explosive realization crystallizes in your mind. Samurai swords, ancestral courage, and rigorous spiritual discipline offer absolutely zero defense against the mechanized, impersonal fury of industrialized warfare. The philosophy of your youth proves utterly hollow when faced with superior, modern firepower. To survive this terrifying new era, you must abandon archaic traditions and embrace ruthless, pragmatic realism. This brutal awakening under a rain of foreign artillery sparks a lifelong dual pursuit of absolute order, a relentless drive that will manifest in the unforgiving modernization of a nation's military, and the meticulous, serene design of your personal gardens. This desperate need for a resilient, unified structure does not materialize from the smoke of naval cannons alone. It stems from the deepest insecurities and humiliations of your youth. You originate from the Chugen, the foot soldier class, dwelling at the absolute bottom of the rigid Tokugawa samurai hierarchy. In the fading decades of the old regime, you are treated with open disdain by higher-ranking elites. You serve as an errand boy and a lowly informer for the treasury and police institutions. You navigate the dusty streets and hidden corridors, observing the petty corruptions and staggering inefficiencies of a decaying system. It is a striking historical irony that an oppressive caste system, designed specifically to project elite strength and noble virtue, ultimately depends on the invisible, unheralded labor of its most marginalized members just to maintain basic functionality. You watch the fragmented Tokugawa state crumble under its own bureaucratic weight, breeding a profound paranoia of social disorder within you. At the Shoka Sanjaku Academy, the fiery radical Yoshida Shoin preaches unyielding loyalty to the emperor, forging the ideological baseline for your revolutionary generation. Yet your precarious upbringing teaches you a more pragmatic lesson. Deeply entrenched social hierarchies breed institutional weakness and must be dismantled from the bottom up to forge a resilient nation. The opportunity to forge this unified state arrives in 1868. Serving as a key staff officer in the Boshin War, Yamagata the tactician emerges, leading troops to violently overthrow the Tokugawa shogunate. Marching through the freezing northern domains of Japan, you apply the bitter lessons learned under Western naval fire. You reject romantic heroics and individual duels in favor of coordinated, practical strikes. Your forces shatter the remaining shogun loyalists, navigating the chaotic battlefields with a cold, calculating efficiency that ultimately restores Emperor Meiji to supreme power. This decisive victory grants you the national platform necessary to realize your ultimate vision. The destruction of a broken political system is only the first step. True power requires building a centralized institution in its place. You look upon the victorious yet undisciplined samurai bands and see a profound liability. They are remnants of an obsolete era, prone to factionalism and unsuited for the disciplined national defense Japan urgently requires to repel Western encroachment. By 1873, you secure the position of war minister and ram through the conscription law. This radical decree demands 3 years of military service from all men, regardless of their social origin. With a single legislative maneuver, you mandate the institutional extinction of the very samurai caste that defined your ancestors. The modernization process deliberately strips these proud warriors of their ancestral stipends, their elevated social status, and the public right to carry swords. You transform rural peasants into disciplined riflemen, forging a national army bound not by feudal obligation, but by absolute imperial law. This massive social engineering project reveals a brutal truth about statecraft. The modernization that seemingly liberates the commoner from feudal servitude simultaneously functions as a vast instrument of surveillance and rigid behavioral control over the general populace. The ultimate test of your new machine arrives 4 years later during the Satsuma Rebellion. Traditionalist samurai, outraged by the loss of their sacred privileges, rise up under the command of your former comrade and close friend, Saigo Takamori. You order your peasant conscripts to march south and crush the uprising. The conflict is ferocious, pitting modern rifles and heavy artillery against desperate charging swordsmen. Your commoner troops prove definitively superior, decisively defeating the rebellion and securing the survival of the modern centralized state. Yet the victory exacts a devastating emotional toll. You harbor profound sorrow and a tragic personal weight over the necessity of destroying Saigo. In the quiet aftermath of the battlefield, you compose poetry mourning the man you systematically ordered your forces to break. You understand now, with chilling clarity, that securing the future of the state often demands the heart-wrenching sacrifice of one's own past and closest comrades. At age 40, determined to protect this modern army from the chaotic whims of politicians, you establish the Imperial Japanese Army General Staff Office. You structurally insulate the military from civilian oversight, ensuring it answers only to the divine authority of the emperor. From this fortress of autonomy, you direct state policy and military strategy through the First Sino-Japanese War and the Russo-Japanese War. Your vision yields massive imperial victories, expanding Japan's borders and shocking the globe by defeating a major European empire. Internally, the central political drama of the era is defined by your bitter rivalry with Ito Hirobumi. Where Ito champions constitutional government and civilian control, Yamagata stands as a deeply conservative fortress. You view political parties as corrupt, self-serving factions that threaten the sacred unity of the empire. Following Ito's assassination in 1909, you consolidate your grip, operating for a decade as the undisputed power behind the throne. From the safety of your private villas, you manipulate prime ministers and direct cabinets, championing a geopolitical philosophy centered on maintaining a line of advantage, a buffer zone extending far beyond Japan's immediate borders to secure its sovereignty. Insulating military power from civilian oversight achieves rapid imperial glory, but it plants the seeds of unchecked militarism, demonstrating the dangerous illusion that you can protect a state by severing its defense forces from the very people they are meant to serve. As you retreat further from public scrutiny into the shadows of governance, you cultivate a starkly different domain of absolute control. You are a pioneering landscape architect, personally designing 3 magnificent naturalistic gardens, Murinon, Shinzanso, and Kokion. Employing the sophisticated technique of borrowed scenery, you incorporate distant mountains into your visual frames, perfectly arranging every rock, tree, and artificial stream. Despite your harsh, austere public persona, your private hours unfold in quiet contemplation. You compose delicate waka poetry, listening to the gentle babble of carefully engineered waters. It is an eerie juxtaposition, a ruthlessly cold military dictator, terrified of social disorder, and reliant on draconian police systems, seeking supreme serenity by meticulously dictating the exact placement of nature. You build these sanctuaries to escape the messy, unpredictable reality of the masses you so deeply distrust. But humanity refuses to be arranged as obediently as the stones in your private streams. In 1921, this obsessive need for absolute control triggers the Crown Prince incident. You attempt to cancel Crown Prince Hirohito's marriage engagement over alleged family colorblindness in his betrothed, prioritizing genetic purity and political engineering over personal bonds. You expect the political establishment to yield silently to your command. Instead, you face massive, unprecedented public and political pushback. The backlash is fierce, forcing you to issue your first genuine apology. The humiliation effectively sidelines you, proving that an obsessive need for total control ultimately alienates the very society you sought to protect. Entering your twilight years, your final months are spent in the isolating silence of your artificial landscapes. The fierce drive that built an empire now leaves you entirely secluded from the nation you engineered. In February 1922, at the age of 83, you quietly pass away. The state funeral intended to honor your monumental achievements becomes a stark, haunting spectacle of public rejection. As your casket moves through the streets of Tokyo, the attendance is strikingly sparse. The chilling silence echoes loudly, standing in dramatic contrast to the hundreds of thousands of citizens who had gathered just weeks prior to mourn your democratic rival, Okuma Shigenobu. You leave behind a formidable military machine and breathtakingly serene gardens, but an empty legacy in the hearts of the populace. The dual pursuit of absolute order, manifested in the ruthless modernization of a nation's military and the meticulous design of personal gardens, achieves structural perfection but hollows out the human spirit. A legacy built solely on fear, draconian control, and martial might earns a nation's obedience, but never the affection or true loyalty of its people.